It was supposed to be a normal drive home. I had taken this route dozens of times before, but that night, everything felt different. The rain wasn't just falling, it was hammering the windshield like nature itself wanted me off that road. Wipers on full speed barely helped. Visibility? Maybe 5 feet, if I was lucky. It was one of those nights where even the city feels abandoned. Streetlights flickered behind me like ghosts waving goodbye. And ahead of me? Nothing but darkness. And water. The freeway was backed up, and I didn't want to sit through another traffic jam. So I took the old back road, lesser known, less traveled. A quiet, tree-lined shortcut that cuts through the outer edge of the woods and farmland. The kind of road where GPS gives up, and your phone signal drops to a lonely SOS icon. I should have known better. No houses. No lights. No other cars. Just my headlights cutting through curtains of rain. The trees on either side bent low in the storm, like they were hiding secrets I had no business knowing, and then, I saw him. A figure. A man, right in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes, tires skidding on the slick pavement. My heart stopped. The figure stumbled forward into the beams of my headlights, and that's when I got a better look. He was soaked from head to toe. His white shirt, at least what was left of it, was torn and stained deep red. Blood. Real blood. Not movie blood. The kind that soaks, sticks, and says someone did something awful to this man. His face was a mess. Bruises along one cheekbone, a gash just under his right eye. One of his shoes was gone. The other barely clung to his foot, the sole flapping with every step. And despite how broken he looked, he managed to raise one hand. Just barely. As if asking for help, or maybe warning me to turn around. Then, he collapsed, right there. In the middle of the road. Like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I sat. Frozen. For a full second, maybe 2, I didn't move. My breath caught in my throat, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight it felt like my fingers would snap. This didn't feel real. Everything in me screamed, drive. Keep going. This isn't your problem. You've seen enough horror movies to know how this ends. But then I heard it. A groan. Low. Weak. Real. I looked around, no other cars, no houses, no signs of help for miles. Just the rain, the dark, and this bloodied man barely holding on. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I shoved the gear into park, unbuckled my seatbelt, and grabbed my phone. Dialed 911. No signal. Of course, out here, I was completely alone. I stepped out into the storm, shoes instantly soaked. The cold hit me like a wall. The kind of bone-deep cold that makes your skin hurt. But adrenaline kept me moving. I reached the man, knelt down beside him. He was breathing, barely. His chest moved in slow, shallow rises. His skin was freezing. His pulse? Weak, but there. His eyes fluttered open for a second. He looked at me, through me, almost. Like he was seeing something else, or someone else. He whispered something I couldn't hear over the rain. I leaned closer. What did you say? His lips moved again, slower this time. I think it was one word. Maybe a name? A warning, and then, nothing. He went limp again. I looked back at my car. Its interior light glowed warm and dry like a distant planet. I had a split-second decision to make. I had no idea who this man was. He could be dangerous. He could be bait. Someone else could be watching me right now, waiting for me to drop my guard. But what if he was just a victim? I took a deep breath. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I hooked my arms under his and dragged him, soaked, bleeding, and limp, toward my passenger side. Every step was harder than the last. He wasn't a small guy, and the rain made everything slick. My shoe slipped twice. Once I nearly fell on top of him. I opened the door and hoisted him in. The interior. Light lit up his injuries even more. The blood on his side looked fresh. And worse, he was trembling now. Whether from shock or cold, I didn't know. I slammed the door shut, ran around to the driver's side, jumped in, and floored it. As the tires squealed and we took off down that black, flooded road, I tried to steady my breath. My pulse pounded in my ears louder than the storm. I didn't know who this man was. I didn't know what had happened to him. All I knew was this: I had just invited something into my car, and possibly into my life, and whatever it was, it came. Out of the rain. Hang in there, man. I'm taking you to the hospital, I said, gripping the steering wheel tighter than I ever had in my life. No response. The man slumped in the passenger seat was eerily still. His head rested against the window, rain tapping softly against the glass beside him. He was breathing, barely. His chest rose and fell in weak, uneven motions, each one shallower than the last. I kept glancing over at him every few seconds. The sight made my stomach turn. His face was barely recognizable, swollen along the jaw, one eye already puffing shut. Dried blood crusted across his forehead, and a fresh stream trickled down from a cut above his temple, carving a path through the dirt and grime on his cheek. His left arm lay limply in his lap, deep scratches running from his wrist to his elbow like he'd clawed his way through something. I couldn't stop my thoughts from spiraling. Who the hell was this guy? What happened to him? And was someone still out there looking for him? That last thought hit hard. What if whoever did this was nearby? Watching me? Following me? What if helping him put a target on me too? I shook it off. Not now. I had to focus on the road. The rain was relentless, and the narrow back road was starting to feel more like a winding river than a highway. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield, trying to make out the next turn before I was right on top of it. The wipers flung water back and forth like a metronome of panic. My phone, still in the console, was useless. No signal, no GPS. I was going by memory now, trying to remember how far the nearest hospital was. 10 minutes? 15, every time I hit a pothole or puddle, the man would twitch or groan. I kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other ready to steady him in case he slid off the seat. My heart was racing so hard it felt like it might break through my ribcage. I wasn't sure if it was fear, adrenaline, or both. I kept trying to reassure myself. You're doing the right thing. You're helping someone. You're saving a life. But that small, quiet voice in the back of my head whispered something different. What if this is the biggest mistake of your life? At one point, I looked over and saw that his lips were moving. Just slightly. No sound. He was trying to say something. I leaned in. What? What is it? He blinked slowly, then whispered, barely audible, They can't know. Who? Who can't know? I asked, but he didn't answer. His eyes fluttered shut again. He was slipping in and out of consciousness now, his head bobbing with the bumps in the road. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, I saw it, light. A row of street lamps. The bright red of a stoplight. A green pharmacy cross blinking faintly. In the distance. I was close. I hit the gas. A few minutes later, the hospital came into view, tall, white, and glowing like a beacon in the night. I pulled into the emergency entrance, slammed the car into park, and jumped out. Help. I need help. I shouted into the rain as I ran around to the passenger side. The automatic doors slid open and two nurses, followed by a security guard, came rushing out with a stretcher. He collapsed on the road. I called out. He's hurt bad. I don't know what happened, just please help him. They didn't waste a second. One nurse checked his pulse as the other began gently moving him onto the stretcher. Even in her calm professionalism, I saw the flash of concern in her eyes. This much blood, she muttered under her breath. I stood there, soaked to the bone, heart still racing, watching them wheel him into the hospital. The automatic doors slid shut behind them, and I was left standing in the silence of the moment, staring at the streaks of red left on the stretcher and the floor. The security guard came up to me. You okay? Yeah, I said, though my voice cracked. I think so. Did he say who he was? What happened to him? I shook my head. Nothing clear. Just some mumbling. He seemed scared. Really scared. The guard nodded. Well, you did the right thing. We'll take it from here. A nurse came out shortly after. She was the one who had checked his vitals first. You probably saved his life, she said softly. He's lucky you found him when you did. I nodded, but my stomach turned. Lucky? There was something about all this that just didn't sit right. Something that buzzed just below the surface. As I stood there in the parking lot, rain still falling around me, I looked at the passenger seat, where he had bled, so much blood. Now it was clean. No stains. No smears. Just gone. And suddenly, that small, quiet voice inside me was louder now. This isn't over. The next morning, I was still shaken. I had barely slept a wink. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes, his bloodied face slumped against the window, the rain-soaked road, that whisper, they can't know. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. Around 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and turned to my phone. Surely, there had to be something, news of an attack, a hit and run. Anything that could explain who he was or where he came from. I searched everything I could think of. Wounded man found near Old Mill Road. Back road attack near Whispering Pines. Emergency room admissions last night. Nothing. Not a word. It was like the man never existed. By 7 a.m., I'd brewed my second cup of coffee and was sitting on the couch, exhausted, anxious, and trying to convince myself that I had done a good thing. That's when I heard it. Knock. 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 Point 3 heavy, deliberate knocks on my front door. I froze mid-sip. It wasn't just the sound, it was the timing. Who knocks on someone's door this early unless it's urgent? My heartbeat ticked up instantly. I placed the mug on the table, stood slowly, and tiptoed to the front door. Without making a sound, I peeked through the peephole. 2 men. Dressed in black suits. Ties. Black umbrellas still dripping water onto my porch. They stood perfectly still, facing forward like they'd done this 1,000 times. No badges. No visible weapons. No police uniforms. Something about them made my skin crawled out. I opened the door a few inches, using the chain lock as a barrier. Can I help you? The taller one spoke first. His voice was calm but carried a weight to it. We'd like to ask you a few questions. About last night. Last night? The man you brought to the hospital. I blinked. Is he okay? Is he alive? The 2 men exchanged a glance. It was brief, but I saw it. A flicker of hesitation, then. The shorter one replied, that man doesn't exist. My fingers tightened around the door. What? There are no records of him being admitted. No name. No ID. The surveillance footage at the ER glitched during the time he arrived. No one even remembers checking him in. When staff went to check on him, his hospital gown was on the floor, and he was gone. I opened the door a little wider, heart racing. You're kidding. We don't joke about things like this, the taller man said. Are you guys FBI? I asked. CIA? Who are you? They didn't answer. Instead, the shorter one pulled a black leather wallet from his coat and flipped it open for half a second, just long enough to show something metallic and official looking. I didn't catch the seal, but whatever it was, it shut me up. He tucked it away before I could even blink. We need to ask you some questions, the taller one said again. May we come in? Something deep in my gut screamed no, but against my better judgment, I nodded and unlatched the door. They stepped inside. Silently. Neither of them wiped their shoes. One scanned the room like he was mapping it out. The other stayed focused on me. I closed the door behind them, suddenly very aware of how quiet my house had become. Tell us everything, the shorter one said. Start from the moment you saw him. So I did. I recounted the whole thing. How I found him stumbling in the road, the blood, the lack of cell signal, the rush to the hospital. I told them he whispered something in the car. That he said, they can't know. They took notes but didn't interrupt. Didn't show emotion. They just listened, expressionless and unreadable. When I finished, they asked if he'd left anything behind. No. I didn't even touch his pockets, I said. I was too focused on getting him help. The taller man walked over to the window and pulled the curtain back slightly, peering out. You're sure he didn't give you a name? A message? Anything unusual? Just that line. They can't know. And you have no idea what he meant? None. He let the curtain fall. We believe the man you encountered is part of an ongoing situation, the shorter agent said, choosing his words carefully. We're investigating his identity, but we need your cooperation. Is he dangerous? Another glance between them. The taller one replied, we're not sure yet. But if he contacts you again, or you remember anything, you call this number. He handed me a black card. No name. No agency. Just a phone number printed in white. Should I be worried? I asked, almost whispering. Neither of them answered. They simply walked to the door. Wait, I said. Why me? Why was I the one who found him? The shorter agent paused with his hand on the doorknob. Sometimes, the wrong people see the right thing at the wrong time. And then they left, just like that. The door clicked shut behind them, but my house still felt occupied, like some invisible presence had stayed behind. I stood there, holding the card in my hand, realizing something terrifying. This wasn't over, whatever I'd stumbled into. It had just begun. What do you mean, he doesn't exist? I asked, still trying to process the words. The taller man stepped back inside, nodding toward the living room. May we? I gestured toward the couch, but I didn't sit. I couldn't. My legs were stiff with adrenaline and confusion. The shorter one, the more direct of the two, pulled out a leather badge wallet again. This time, he let me get a longer look. Federal, that much was clear. Not police. Not local authorities. But something deeper. Something with layers. The kind of badge you only see in movies or in nightmares. The taller agent started speaking in that same calm, measured tone. The man you brought to the hospital, there is no record of him. No name. No identification. No match to any missing persons database, criminal file, government list, nothing. That's not possible, I said, still standing, arms crossed. As if trying to hold myself together. He was real. I picked him up. He was bleeding. He was right next to me. The agent nodded. We believe you. He walked slowly to the window, pulled back the curtain just enough to glance outside, then let it fall again. There's more, the shorter agent added. The hospital's security system, CCTV cameras, glitched out the exact moment he was brought in. We've reviewed the footage. One frame shows the emergency staff wheeling in a stretcher. The next? Static. For exactly 7 minutes and 24 seconds. Then, the footage resumes. The room is empty. The bed is cold. The window is open. I frowned. You're saying, he escaped? We're saying, he vanished, the agent replied. There's no footage of him leaving. No alarms triggered. No witnesses. Just a hospital gown left on the floor. I rubbed my temples. This is insane. Not as insane as you might think, the taller one said quietly. Cases like this, they don't get talked about. Not publicly. What do you mean? I asked. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes, people surface, people who don't exist in any official sense. No records. No digital footprint. No history. It's as if they were never born. They appear, then disappear. And those who cross paths with them are rarely the same afterward. I felt a chill run down my spine. Okay, well, he was in my car, I said. You can check. There's got to be blood. Hair. Fingerprints. Something. Show us, the shorter agent said. We went outside. The rain had finally stopped, but the air still hung heavy with the scent of wet asphalt and pine. My car sat under the pale glow of the streetlight, looking completely normal. Harmless, even. I opened the passenger door, half expecting to find dried blood, maybe even a leftover bandage or cloth where I had wiped him down, but the seat, clean, spotless. In fact, I froze. There was blood. I swear, there was so much blood. The agent crouched, swabbed the seat with a sterile cotton pad, and sealed it into a small bag. The other took a few photos with a small black device. No flash, no sound. He ran his fingers lightly across the seat fabric. No fibers. No residue. If we didn't know better, we'd say no one sat here last night. I stared into the car. The very place I'd seen him slumped over, wheezing for air, dripping blood onto the floor mat. How is that possible? The taller agent didn't answer. He simply looked at me and asked, did he touch anything in your house? Anything else? Besides the car? No, I said slowly. He never made it inside. Just the car and then the hospital. The agent nodded, as if confirming a silent theory. I couldn't take it anymore. Am I in some kind of trouble? The shorter one shook his head. No. You weren't the target. You just intersected with him. Then who was he? I asked. What was he? There was a pause. Then, for the first time, I saw something flicker across the taller agent's face. Not fear, but caution. He's not just a missing person. He's classified. The agent said flatly, the word hit like a punch to the gut. Classified? I echoed. What does that even mean? The agent didn't elaborate. Instead, he reached into his coat and handed me the same black business card they'd given earlier. No name. No agency. Just that same number in white block font. If he contacts you again, the shorter agent said, don't engage. Don't ask questions. Call this number immediately. And if he shows up at my door again? I asked, don't let him in. That was it. No further explanation. No comfort. No hint of what they really knew. They thanked me for my time, turned, and left with the same silent efficiency they arrived with, the door shut behind them, but the weight of their visit lingered. Like smoke in the air. I locked every window. Every door. I even pulled the blinds shut. Then I stood in the hallway, holding that little black card, wondering how a single night could make your whole world feel like a lie. I had helped a man. A bleeding, terrified man on a rainy road, and now, I wasn't even sure if he was human. The days that followed were eerily quiet, too quiet. I kept checking the local news, half expecting some kind of story to break, unidentified man found, or hospital security breach under investigation. Maybe even something more bizarre, federal agents seen investigating strange disappearance. But there was nothing. No headlines. No news blurbs. No mentions on social media. Not even a local rumor. It was like the whole thing had never happened, like he had never existed, just like the agents had said. I told no one. Not friends, not coworkers, not even my sister. What was I supposed to say? That I picked up a bleeding man in the middle of a storm and then 2 government agents showed up and told me he was classified and vanished? They'd think I lost my mind, or worse, that I was involved in something criminal. So I kept it to myself, but I started doing little things differently. I double locked my doors, kept the curtains drawn, left a light on in the hallway at night. It was stupid, maybe even paranoid, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching, not someone, actually, him. Exactly 1 week after that night, I was heading out to check my mailbox. I didn't even want to go. It was drizzling again, and the clouds were thick like the night I found him. But I forced myself to act normal, to go through the motions. That's when I saw it, tucked between a grocery store flyer and an internet bill, was a small, white envelope. No return address. No stamps, just my name written in neat, blocky handwriting. The kind that's hard to trace, hard to read emotionally. Like someone had written it wearing gloves, or without blinking. I paused right there at the curb, something inside me already twisting in warning. This wasn't junk mail. This wasn't normal. I looked around. The street was empty. No parked cars. No joggers. No neighbors watering their lawns. Just the faint sound of wind through the trees. I slipped the envelope into my jacket pocket and hurried back inside. Once the door was locked behind me, I opened it. There was no letter inside. No note. Just a single photograph. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was grainy, like it had been printed from an old disposable camera or security footage. The colors were dull. The angle was strange, like someone was crouched, watching from a distance. Then my stomach dropped. It was me, standing inside my own living room. The photo had been taken from outside my house, from the shadows just beyond the window. I could see myself clearly through the glass, wearing the same hoodie I had on 2 nights ago. I was holding a mug of coffee, standing in the exact spot where I usually check the weather on my phone. The photo had been taken recently. Within the last few days, while I was home. Alone. At night. I turned the photo over. On the back, written in sharp black ink, were 5 simple words: thank you. I remember you. I sat down, heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. He had been here, not in the metaphorical sense. Not in my thoughts or imagination. He had physically been outside my house. Watching. Photographing. Remembering. The agent said he vanished from a hospital room with a wide open window. And now I knew where he went. At least for a moment. Back to me. Why? Was it a warning, a threat, or some twisted form of gratitude? I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I sat with every light on in the house, phone in one hand, a kitchen knife in the other. Not that it would have helped, because whatever he wasn't normal. It's been months now. The envelope is still in my drawer, the photo tucked inside. Sometimes I take it out, just to remind myself it was real. That I'm not crazy, but I haven't heard from him again. Still, I live differently now. Every time I walk past a window, I check the shadows. Every time I hear rain tapping against the glass, I feel my stomach twist. And every time I hear a knock at the door, especially late, especially when I'm alone, I freeze. I still don't know who he was. A fugitive? A spy? Some kind of experiment gone wrong? Or something else entirely? Maybe he escaped from a place the government doesn't want us to know about. Maybe he wasn't supposed to survive. Maybe he wasn't even supposed to be seen. On a rainy, deserted road, I helped a bloodied man into my car and took him to a hospital, and I don't think I was ever supposed to. So the next time you're driving down a dark road and see someone, alone, bleeding, desperate, waving you down, ask yourself, are you helping a victim, or inviting something you can't explain into your life? Because if you open that door, it may never close again.